Hello everyone, welcome back to You Can Crack UPSC channel. Today in this video we are going to discuss about sources of Indian Constitution. Okay, so our Indian Constitution is called as borrowed constitution, but it is not just a simple copy. Okay, we have that criticism that on Indian Constitution that it is a simply a copied constitution. It is absolutely not true. Why? Because Indian Constitution have examined world over constitutions, and in those constitution we have picked the best provisions, or those best provisions which were suitable to Indian needs, and those provisions we have modified according to our needs and conditions of India. So India calling Indian Constitution a simply copied constitution is absolutely false, and it is not true. Why? Because India have borrowed best features of all over the world's constitutions, and they have modified according to our Indian needs. So first source and the biggest source of Indian Constitution is Government of India Act 1935. Yes, Government of India Act 1935 plays a pivotal role in India's constitutional structure. Why? Because we have adopted or we have borrowed it from federal scheme of India and Office of Governor, Judiciary, Public Service Commission, which we are now preparing for emergency provisions, administrative details. So these are the features which we have borrowed from Government of India Act 1935. The next feature is British Constitution. We have somehow political influence, Britain's political influence on Indian political system. Why? Because as you all know that we are under British. We were under the British rule for so many years. So obviously British political system influence would be on Indian political system. So in from British Constitution we have borrowed parliamentary government, rule of law, legislative procedure, single citizenship most important, and cabinet system, as well as prerogative writs, parliamentary privileges. See, parliamentary government political system we are discussing. So parliamentary privileges and bicameralism. And next source of our Indian Constitution is US Constitution. Very important. From US Constitution we have borrowed fundamental rights, independence of judiciary, judicial review, impeachment of the president, and removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges, as well as post of vice president. Earlier I have said that from borrowed features of Indian Constitution we have modified some features according to our Indian needs. One of the best example is the post of vice president. Why? Because if you compare Indian post of vice president as well as US post of vice president, we can see lot of differences. In India, vice president acts as ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha, and he is not part of council of ministers, is not part of council of ministers as well. And in the US he assists president, and when he dies or resigns or removed by any reason, he immediately acts as president. But not as vice president, and for remaining period as well. For example, first president, number one president is died or removed or resigned by any situation, the vice president of USA will act for other 3 years as well. If he acts as president 1 year, president 1, the vice president will act for remaining 3 years. But in Indian constitutional post of vice president is different, because when president dies, resigns, or removed, the vice president acts as a like a president for the temporary period only, but until a new president got elected. Okay, until we get new president or elections happen, then till then vice president acts like a president. So this is the major difference between US and Indian vice president post. So this is just an example. You can see other features of borrowed features as well, how we have modified according to our needs. And next source of constitution is Irish Constitution. Okay, most important is DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. We have borrowed it from Irish Constitution. And nomination of members to Rajya Sabha, method of election of Vice President, not impeachment. Impeachment from US Constitution. Impeachment of President is from US Constitution, and election, method of election of President is from Irish Constitution. And next source of our Constitution is Canadian Constitution. From Canadian Constitution we have borrowed federation with strong center, vesting of residuary powers in the center, appointment of state governance by the center, governors by the center, advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Now for your revision part, please comment under which article this advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court comes under. And next source of our Indian Constitution is Australian Constitution. From Australian Constitution we have borrowed concurrent list, freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse, joint sitting of two houses of parliament. So here is your another question, under which article this joint sitting is mentioned. Please comment in the comment section. And next source is Germany Constitution. From Germany we have borrowed emergency provisions relating to suspension of fundamental rights. Now here is another question, from which source we have borrowed only emergency provisions. Okay, please comment in the comment section. Next, USSR or Russian Constitution. From Russia we have borrowed important fundamental duties. Comment an amendment which we have amended fundamental duties, and through which amendment act we have included fundamental duties in our constitution. And ideal of justice, social, economic and political in the preamble. French Constitution. From French Constitution we have borrowed republic and the ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity in the preamble. And next is South African Constitution. From South African, procedure for amendment of the constitution, election of members of Rajya Sabha. And next is Japanese Constitution. From Japanese, procedure established by law. So this is how we have borrowed various features from various constitutional provisions from best constitution, worldwide constitution. So here you need to make note of articles which we have mentioned. For example, procedure of amendment of the constitution is under which article. So beside this only you need to write that article. For the revision purpose it is very useful. So I hope you have understood the video. And remember, examiner can ask these questions for sure in many parts of the many competitive exams. For example, from how many countries we have borrowed the constitution, that is 11. Here is the answer. And from for example, they can also ask like this: procedure for amendment of constitution borrowed from which country? America, Africa, Japanese, French. So like that they can frame this type of questions as well, and they can give match the following type questions. And they can also ask like this as well: from Irish Constitution which of the features we have borrowed. So this plays a very important role, and must and should remember all these sources of constitution without any confusion, so that we cannot waste even single second in examination hall. So yeah, I hope you have understood this video. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can crack UPSC.